on this channel, so don't even worry about it, girl. We are back with another Live to Roll show. I'm your host for the day, Brianna Wheeler. You're back with another women's disability show, and today we are going to be talking about gun violence and also about forgiveness, PTSD, confidence. We're going to get into a couple different things, but I just want to give a little disclaimer in the beginning and let you guys know that we are going to be talking about some sensitive subjects. If that does bother you, feel free to skip ahead a little bit or, watch after we're done with the live. That's totally fine. But I just want to let you guys know ahead of time that that's something that we're going to be talking about, okay? So we're going to get right into introductions. My name is Brianna. If you guys don't know me, I am a T12, and I was injured 6 years ago from a gunshot in my back that is still inside of there. And we'll get a little bit more into our stories after our introductions, okay? So let's go to Bentli.
Hi, I'm Bentli. I've been on here a few times. I always love coming to hang with the Live to Roll homies. I am an incomplete L2, partial L3, and it was also a gunshot.
Thank you so much. And let's go to Izeria.
Hi, my name's Izeria, and I am a paraplegic incomplete T12L1, and my injury is also a gunshot wound, and it's still lodged in my back.
And how long ago was that?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. You're still a baby. I'm so glad that you were able to join us and come on. I saw your story online, and I gravitated toward you. So I'm excited to dig deeper into your journey over these last 2 years. I'm very excited about that. Okay, so we're going to briefly just explain how we were injured, because I know in these types of conversations, people are always so curious, So for those of you guys who don't know, I'm going to just briefly explain. I was in my car with my boyfriend, and a guy came walking down the street, and he knocked on my window to ask for a cigarette and knew the guy that was in the back seat, which was a coworker. He asked to get inside of the vehicle, and it was about 2 minutes later that the gun went off behind my back. I don't know all the details. I don't know why or how or what happened. I don't know if it was accidental or it was on purpose. Unfortunately, he decided not to give me any of that information, which was frustrating, of course, in the beginning. But that is basically how I was injured. So let's pass it on to Izeria. Oh, there's Bobby, everybody. Bobby's running the show behind the scenes today. He's filling in for Shawn, so it's probably a little mixed up with the buttons. And anybody joining us in the chat, feel free to drop your names. Feel free to say hey. We're going to shout you guys out along the way. So if you have any questions or any follow-ups, I know we kind of move a little bit quickly on this show, but feel free to just throw in your comments. I will go back and we'll backtrack and we'll re-talk about that topic if we need to, okay? So if we happen to move on while you're still typing, I know that happens a lot. Still send that comment in because we want to hear it, and there's probably somebody else who is watching this after we're live and they're not going to get to ask that question. So let's dive into those questions while we're right here in front of you guys, okay? So don't worry about it. Feel free. Let's see who's in there right now. We already have Fallon Beams, Aaliyah Chavez, Destiny. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Okay, so let's briefly explain how you were injured. Let's go to Izeria.
Okay, so I got in March of 2021, and I was hanging out with friends. It was just like a hangout, and so my friend invited a guy she liked, and then our guy friends had left. And as I thought, our guy friends left, two of them came back for a bottle, and we kept telling him we don't have the bottle, but you can come in and you can grab your other stuff that you need. And then he was making a big fuss and fight about a bottle. And then we were able to get him out of the house. And then once he was out of the house, I had followed and went outside. And I saw him getting pulled out of the car by a guy I didn't know, and he had a gun in his hand. And me and my friend Evelyn, we ran over there, and we were trying to pull the guy that we didn't know off of our friend. And I was left there alone to pull the guy off by myself. So I was pulling the guy off to get off my friend, and I was able to break the fight up. And once the fight got broken up, and when the guy was walking away, my friend had shot me twice. and I got shot on my left side and my right foot.
Oh my goodness. So was your friend aiming towards you, or it just so happened that you were the
No,
one
so
that
it
got
wasn't.
shot?
No, it wasn't intentionally. It was just I was a bystander of the middle of firing.
Wow, I can't wait to dig deeper into your forgiveness and your journey on that. That is so powerful. Thank you so much for being on and sharing with us. I really appreciate it. Let's
Thank
go
you.
to Bentley.
I'm a little further in my injury than both of you. I'm actually approaching my 10th year in September. Will be 10 years. And basically, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. My ex-boyfriend unloaded a clip into me, and 6 out of the 8 bullets hit me. And the final shot was in my back. I turned to run. So that was my shooting incident.
I know you've probably said it so many times, and it's so funny because it's like as you get on your years, it's kind of just like you've learned how to break it down so easily that sometimes it comes off like nonchalant. Do you feel that way ever? I
All
always
the
feel like
time,
people are
especially
like,
like when I'm
"What the
just
fuck do you
sharing.
mean?"
Everyone's like, "Oh, like you can tell." I am very nonchalant about it, but people, I forget people don't go through horrific gunshot injuries and
Mhm.
spinal cord injuries and things like that. And I say it pretty candid, just
Uh-huh.
very openly, and it traumatizes people a little bit, but that also shows who has enough of a good vibe to be around. Like, I
Yeah.
don't
I
want
agree.
people
I
who are
agree.
horrifically shocked and pity me. I want people to understand and be like, damn, okay, tell me more. Like, I'd prefer
Mhm.
that than anything.
I
Definitely.
agree, and I almost feel like sometimes they turn it into like me comforting them about me getting shot. Like it's almost like a
Yeah.
weird little thing, like where you're like, no,
Yeah.
it's okay, like like it's gonna be okay, and I hate that. I hate doing it, but so and I really do try to catch myself. Sometimes I'll try to like say it like in a more like different tone, like yeah, I was shot and this is what happened. But sometimes I just say it nonchalantly, even on here when I'm explaining my injury, I'm just like, gunshot survivor, okay, keep on going, and everybody's like, wait, elaborate, that's so funny that we relate on. Okay. So our
Just
first
can't help
question
it.
is, what was your feelings on guns before you were injured, and has it changed? So this is a big question that I feel like I get asked a lot, and I'm curious what your guys' answers are. So let's go to Izeria.
Okay, so my feeling on like it's on our feelings on guns, right?
Yes. How
That's
was it like
okay.
before you were injured? And do you feel differently about it? Like, were you okay being around them? Did you feel like, you sung the songs, it didn't bother you, or did it always bother you? Were you against them? No.
So before, like, I never like cared really much for guns. I wasn't really like around it that much, involved, like, and I really didn't put myself like around people like that. But I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I wouldn't sit there and be like, oh, and make it a big deal. Like, guns at the end of the day protect us all, innocent and not. Like, it protects us all. But at the end of the day, I wasn't like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like choose a gun over anything. But now, after my injury, like still it took me a while to feel the same again, like to not care and stuff. But now I finally came to like an acceptance that like guns will always be there, and like it was hard for me because I would have like any noise, like anything like loud would trigger me, or like I would jump, or like just like fireworks. It was hard for me to like do like 4th of July for the first time, so it was like kind of
Mhm.
hard with that. But after a while, like I developed it and I got used to it, and it's just like a fear that I really wanted to overcome. So I just like kind of wanted to like come to an acceptance with it because that was like my biggest fear. And now like I can finally say like, okay, I'm okay, like it's fine, like,
Mhm.
but like I won't surround myself with it ever.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I totally get you. I relate a lot to that. I feel like I was never like for it or against it really. Like if people were around me with them, then it's just like it is what it is. But afterwards, I I won't say like I was okay with it though. Like I wasn't okay with having one on me. I always felt like guns increase the situation and make it more dangerous. My anxiety, I have bad anxiety and I always have. So it automatically goes up whenever there's like a serious situation, there's a gun around, somebody's cleaning it. all those things just make me very, very nervous, you know, and I prefer not to be around it. And now it's very hard because you hear about gun violence almost every single day, you know,
Like if they
and
normalize.
what'd you say, love?
I said like if they normalized it, like it's like normal like now to the world.
Yes, it is almost normal to hear about people getting shot, and for a long time in the beginning, it was a trigger to hear about it, and it's almost, I don't know if you guys feel this, but I felt a lot of like victim guilt, like survivor guilt. Is that what it's called? Survivor guilt. I felt like, why are all these people getting shot and being in the same situation or a less serious situation as me and not living? And I did, you know, and that was very difficult for me to deal with. And it still is. It still does get difficult. I have my days. It's hard. It's not easy, you know, but a part of me does feel like there is that protection part. I just wish that there wasn't so many. That's the way I feel. Like I feel like if we could limit it, and I feel like if there was different laws and order, then it might help the violence part of the thing. You know, because it's the violence that
Mm-hmm.
is hard to accept, right? So Bentley, how was your views on it? Were you okay with guns? Were you around them? What was your situation when it came to guns before and after your injury?
Well, I'm from Texas, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
like if that says anything.
Yeah.
I was raised in a household of hunters. I was a part of the gun safety. I believe in being able to carry. I still carry. I actually competed in my first seated skeet shooting competition this summer. As a matter of fact, it's irresponsible and educated people who have access to guns that I am not okay with
Mm-hmm.
in any context. I don't believe anyone has any business having one that doesn't understand and hasn't taken the first step in the courses that's necessary to understand
Mm-hmm.
how serious of a weapon it truly can be.
Yeah, that was wildly put. I totally agree. And like something that was wrong with the guy who shot me and that I found out was that he had already been previously arrested for the same thing, mishandling weapons, and he was deemed unfit to have this weapon, you know, and that's what is such a trigger. It's the people that don't know, you know, and need to gain knowledge about what they're carrying and how dangerous it can be, you know, and how serious of an effect it could have. And I totally agree with you. So diving deeper in that, were right after you were shot, were you just right back okay with guns again? Like, or did it take you a while to want to be around them, or what was your relationship like that?
It's never bothered me to be around firearms. It was the individual that hurt me. You know, again, I've been a hunter and I've grown up around guns, and I came home to a house filled with them, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not the guns that bothered me, it's the people, and I truly feel very strongly about that. I'm not scared of guns at all. It's the people that have acquired these weapons that make me uneasy.
Yes, well put, well put. Okay, let me just jump over to the chat really quick and let me just jump over here. Tanya, hello, Izeria's mom here. Thank you so much for joining. You have a beautiful daughter. Destiny, such strong, beautiful woman. Thank you so much. Ben, thank you for our fist bump. Hope you ladies have a wonderful stream and evening. Just stopping by to show love and support. We love you, Ben. Thank you so much. Aaliyah, so proud of you. Quad Rod, hello. There's a lot of garble on here, hard to understand. Oh, Ben saying it might be your internet connection. Yeah, because I'm getting a pretty clear picture over here. So yeah, it might be your internet connection. Go ahead and check that. Okay, so moving over to PTSD afterwards. Izeria touched on it a little bit, but for me, it was loud noises. For some reason, I feel like because I wasn't expecting it, it came from behind and I was very confused of what happened. Any little bump, anything that was loud, like send my body into this shock, where I could feel it in my heart. I could feel my chest getting tight. And it's still hard for me, honestly. I had to learn how to talk myself out of that. It's not that it went away. by any means. I've had to learn how to talk myself down and tell myself, you're okay, Brianna. Everything's fine. Nobody's shooting at you, nobody's in danger. Keep going, and I can breathe through it and it's fine and I can get through it. But the first 2 years, I would say, was extremely hard for me. I couldn't celebrate 4th of July. I was very nervous anytime I heard ambulance. I just was living life in fear, right? Because I let this situation take over my mind so much. So I really feel like also the flashbacks of not so much of what happened, but more of like what I could have done differently, what I could have said differently, reminiscing a lot about what happened. Also, I was shot in the passenger seat of my car. So after rehab, I had to get back into that same vehicle. So another one of my triggers is people getting in the back of my in the back seat of my car, which happens all the time, right? My brothers accidentally kicked my seat, or like whatever the case may be. Another thing is like I was holding onto the handle of my car, which I do all the time. So randomly I'll get those flashback triggers, which are really hard. And again, the way I get through them now is I talk myself down. You're not in danger, Brianna. My anxiety loves to lie to me, a little sneaky bitch, that little anxiety, and she loves to creep up and be like, oh my God, the world's on fire, and I have to be like, no, everything's okay. You're fine. Keep going. Read a song lyric, look at a tree, look at the view. Everything's okay. And that's kind of just how I center myself and how I dealt with my PTSD. So let's go to Bentli. Did you have any PTSD after your injury?
That's kind of a loaded question. Of course I did. But I didn't understand the depths of my PTSD nor what it was going to take to get through all of those issues and traumas. I have been sober a little over 2 years, and that's when I really realized how much I was like, oh, I didn't have PTSD, blah, 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 blah. Like, well, that wasn't factual. I was just numbing myself to excess, particularly. I didn't drink for the first 4 years of my injury, but I was on to 40 to 50 pills every day. Like, as you ladies, I'm sure both are aware, all of the opioids and the painkillers. And, I was still just zombified and in la la land anyway. And I got transitioned back into partying after I got off of my prescriptions. And so I just went from one numbing technique to the next. And it wasn't until I actually...
Sorry to interrupt you. Were you drinking and like doing drugs as much before your injury, or do you really feel like it increased after your injury?
I've always been a party girl. Like, I have recreationally used like all of my, like, since I was a young teenager. But the passing of my best friend unexpectedly exasperated my addictions. I was just coping. I wasn't ready for that incident. And it also happened, like, it was December of 2018 that I lost her. And then, going off the rails in 2020 happened, which didn't help anybody with anything. And it was just booze and blow and booty calls. Like, I didn't care about living at that point. And I was just getting fucked up because I didn't want to have to feel anything. I got addicted to not feeling.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part. And that's the most difficult thing when dealing with PTSD. You have to feel everything fully. And for me personally, I went the better part of a decade actively avoiding anything uncomfortable whatsoever. And so while I don't credit my sobriety to helping my PTSD, it definitely identified triggers and things I needed to look at and issues I had to focus on truly healing from, not just coping with. Like, these are deep rooted problems that we could push aside all we want, but unless we face them head on, it's going to be something we continually deal with. Like I said, I'm a little bit further in my injury than y'all. I've done this many times, and I understand that I was physically put my ass to sit down, and I still didn't sit in my feelings till very recently. And that's been the biggest part of dealing with all of it. You have to feel your feels. And I don't know if you ladies are like me or not, but I did not want to feel anything unpleasant. And I refused to for a very long time. And you have to get better for these traumas. And once you start healing those, you get to help heal others. And the same goes, hurt people will heal people. And you have to recognize those things.
Oh my God, that gave me goosebumps. I love that so much. Yes, yes.
I'm all
Healing
like,
is so
like
important, you know? And like jumping into that, it's like I healed so much more trauma that was inside of me than just my gunshot situation, you know, than just becoming paralyzed and just that trauma. There was so many other deep rooted traumas in me that needed to be healed, that I needed to cry and be angry and figure out and discover who the fuck I was now as a disabled woman, you know? And it was hard work. It was a lot of days where I was crying, you know, where I was frustrated, where I wanted to give up, you know, and I didn't want to dig deep. I didn't want to remember these things. You want to shove them deep down. You don't want to figure it out. You know, you don't want to be told, hey, maybe you were doing something wrong. Maybe you need to change a little bit.
That's
Maybe
the
you
hardest
need to
pill
work
to
on
swallow.
something. Yes.
Owning
Oh,
your
yes,
part
girl.
in whatever.
That is the
Really
hardest
hard
fucking
one.
pill to swallow because
Yep.
it shows a lot in your face. Who wants to be told they're wrong, you know?
Yeah.
But you have to realize that, and you have to also, which we're going to get into, is forgive yourself. That's
Yes.
another big
Yeah.
part of this, you know. So before we get into that, let's go to Izeria. So, how did you deal with your PTSD afterwards?
So, how I dealt with it, I had a hard time, just like how you guys did. Like, I had a really hard time. It took me a while to come to an acceptance with it. It took me a while to love myself again, to look at myself that, like, I was pretty. And then, like, with PTSD, it was hard to. It felt like I was going crazy. It felt like my mind was just like in a tornado the whole time I was being injured. Like the whole time it just feels like your brain's a tornado and you feel like you're crazy for going through all these emotions, and you feel like you're crazy because you are just so angry at the world that you're mean to people that you love or next to you or close to you, and then like it like makes you feel more crazy because you're mean to them, and just like dang, like am I the problem, like am I really, like am I wrong for feeling what I'm feeling, like. And there's just like a lot of things where I struggled with trying to not be like, I always saw myself as a burden, so I was always trying to hide my feelings and trying not to be such a burden. And with hiding my feelings so much, it made things worse. It made me like do more outbursts, and it made me art like get in more fights with my mom, and it just like made me turn like against my family, like if I had nobody and it was just myself, like it felt like I couldn't trust nobody, like it felt like I couldn't even trust like myself. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
really hard to cope with just like trying to trust people again, because like when I got shot, like I've known this kid that shot me since middle school, and then the people around me like were my close friends, and some of them left me there, you know, and some of
Mm-hmm.
them left because you know they didn't want to get in trouble or whatever the case may be, and some of them I known since middle school. So it's like now it's hard for me to try to trust people, and I've always had trust issues like even in the beginning. So now it's just gotten to like worse where like it's hard for me to trust like people and let people in. And like another thing too, like when you guys said like you have to feel the feelings, and that's one thing like I struggled with it. It's like I didn't want to feel the feelings. I didn't want to feel crazy. I didn't want to feel sad. I didn't want to feel the pain that I was going through. Like I just didn't want to feel any of it. And I just wanted to end it all. Like I've always like ever since my injury, like I've always like said out loud like I don't want to be here no more. Like I've always wanted to give up and give up. And then like when I saw the Rolettes and Brianna, I saw you guys, and I was like, if these girls can do it, then I know for damn straight I can do it. And I was like, I was put here and I was able to live a second life because I'm here and I have a voice for it. And a lot of people don't have voices or enough. They're not strong enough or comfortable enough to talk about something that, you know, like one of us can. And so like it's just, it opened my eyes, but it also like kind of like it like made me feel like I got a new soul inside me. It felt like my old one was replaced and a new one was put inside me.
Yes, girl,
Like I had
I
to
love
love the new
that.
soul.
Yes, and that's what happens. You shed all that away, right? Because like I don't know where life would have taken me, but I know now thinking about who I am today, I was broken, you know, I was still broken. I was a mess, walking or not. For some reason, when I got injured, I like fantasized this like walking version of Brianna that was just fucking perfect and had a great life. And it's like, no, bitch, it was not like that at all. Like, you had
Yeah.
struggles, it was hard, life still sucks. You were crying about some random ass thing that you don't even remember, you know? And it's like, but it's hard to accept that, right? It's hard because you're feeling all these emotions that you don't even know what it is. You're like sad, you're angry, you're frustrated, you want to give up. I remember praying to God and being like, what was your plan here, buddy? Like, why the hell would you leave me alive to feel this pain, to feel this way? It doesn't make sense why you would take people away and you would leave me to feel this pain. It didn't click in my head, and it was very frustrating, and it threw me down this rabbit hole where I was very, very angry, you know, and it was hard. And like you said, being mad at family, I was in a relationship too, and I was very angry at my boyfriend for no reason at all. And he was just trying to help, and I didn't feel sexy. I didn't feel like myself anymore. I wasn't who he got with, you know, and that made me very angry at myself. Um, and before I would like be like, you know, they don't understand what I'm feeling. They don't understand this pain. They don't understand. They don't understand. But throughout my years, I realized like, no, this is a family injury. Like I didn't understand what they were going through neither. And that's a hard thing to accept, right? Because it's like, I was being a little bit of a bitch back then, you know, so it's like, oops, sorry guys, you know, I was going through some things, understand you were going through some things too, you know, we forgive each other truth, but it's hard to accept that when you are going through that, you know, so if you are newly injured and you're listening to this, be nice to the ones around you, you know, they love you and they're worried, and you have to realize that they can't take your pain away. They're watching somebody that they love go through this traumatic thing and feel all these emotions, and there's nothing they can do about it, you know. And like you said, some people retreat, some people aren't strong enough to stay, and you know what I say to them? Hasta la vista. You know, they weren't made to be inside of our lives, you know, they weren't meant to be a part of this new soul, this new version of you, you know, they don't deserve this version of you. And it's hard to think to accept, right? Because we want to hold on to people forever. But one thing this injury taught me is people do not stay, you know, and you don't get to choose who stays. Time chooses who stays. So appreciate
Well,
who's
see,
in your life.
I can't relate on that aspect. I will disagree just on that part. Like, I have had, and I know some people. There are definitely people that don't stick around, but
Mm-hmm.
I had and still have an amazing support group, and I was gonna put that in there as well. There's people
Mm-hmm.
that were not there whenever I was hurt and were not around when I was first injured. We have reconnected within this past
Mm-hmm.
year and things like that. And again, like I said, I'm much further into y'all's injuries, and I'm just now learning and seeing these things for myself personally. I've made amends and had people make amends with me that feel horrible and
Mm-hmm.
know it was a horrible, shitty decision to not be around. But having that conversation with them and putting myself in their shoes, they couldn't be around me in that state. You know, I was a little baby badass, and seeing me so fragile absolutely destroyed them. And these were people that still to this day very much still love me, and I love too. Some people can't meet you where you're at the time, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something I've had to really work with, and I've had to have a lot of humility with. I have to understand that it's not always about me, and that because they weren't strong enough to be there, I don't have to hold resentment for that. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that not everybody is as strong as we women are, you know, and
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
take
It's
a
that's
crazy
lot to
that you
great.
be
say
part of
that.
I
that
love that you added that
forgiveness.
in. It's great. No, it's a great addition because yeah, that's so true. I mean, don't block yourself out. I just feel like in the beginning, of course, we blame ourselves, right? We think it's us. We think it's something wrong with now. Not only do we lose our legs, we lost our friends. We don't relate to nobody. We can't hang
We
out
have
the
no
same way.
life.
It's us,
Like
us,
there's
us.
nothing anymore.
Yeah, we have everything taken from us.
Exactly. So
Like,
it's just understanding, like they weren't strong enough at that moment. Like you're totally right. Some people can't handle it. Some things like
And it does take some people like 10 years to come around. And like I said, it's like there's people that I've reconnected with that I swore like they could go fuck themselves. I hope I never see you again. Like you left me in my most vulnerable state. And then I felt that way initially. And then once I heard where they were coming from, I was like, damn, I'm kind of an asshole for being mad for the past 10 years. Like,
yeah,
I wish we
that's
would
so
have had
beautiful.
a conversation.
I love that, Bentley. I think that's so beautiful, and it gave me motivation too because I do hold resentment against those people. Like, still, me 6 years out, like, anytime their name comes up, I'm just like, fuck those bitches. Like, I'm angry. It makes
This
me
is
like,
this has taken like 10 years worth of growth, and like I really
yeah. But
like
I love that
I know
because I'm all about
y'all are
growing.
growing and navigating through your own injuries too. But there are also those people that I will never like. They won't ever get any kind of energy. Like it's a fine line between the two. But I wanted to put that out there that there are some people that just were not able to be there for us
At
during
that
such
moment. Yeah,
a
I get you.
terrible
Yeah.
time.
it's crazy that you said that, Bentley, because like currently, like what I'm like going through, like I told you guys, like I had a friend, and friends had left me that I've known for like a while, or
Mhm.
even my best friends, and one of my like really close friends like had left me that night and whatever, and we stopped being friends for that whole like year of like my first injury. And then recently she had hit me up and she had wrote me a huge paragraph apologizing, like, and it was just nice because like you said, it was nice to let them know that it was shitty what they did, and it was nice to hear from what they were coming from, and like to know that like, okay, it's not always about myself. Like sometimes it really does take a toll on people like that love us and care for us, that sometimes they don't know how to react but dismiss themselves and then reboot themselves when they're mature enough and feel like they're strong enough for us to be in our lives without disappointing us again. So I like that you said that because I'm going through a current situation like that, and it's just like cool that you said that because I was like, wow, like I relate to that so much.
Yes.
We never leave their hearts. Like these people, like, and that's the whole thing is they love us the best way they knew how. And that doesn't mean that you have to invite them back in your life, but you don't have to hold on to any kind of resentment or, it's about, the whole thing we're talking about is about forgiveness, and it's not about the other person when you forgive somebody. Like this is all about us and our healing. And
Yes.
you won't hear an apology from most of the people that hurt you. And
Yeah.
it's important to be able to say, I don't need an apology from this person. I am a human as well. I will put myself in your position and see things from your point of view, but that's where it's at. And
Yeah.
it's a really validating and liberating feeling. It's like it is what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't change anything, but it makes me feel better. So whatever.
Yep.
I love that. Forgiveness is definitely for you, and we weren't even originally going to talk about forgiveness with the people who left us. It was more going to be focused on the person who shot us, but I love that it's just a full circle because I feel like I needed to hear this conversation as well. And
I
sometimes it's
do. I
easier
love
to
you
like,
both.
oh, I love you too. Bulletproof Sisters for life. I love this. And I love that we can unite and we can motivate each other, so yeah, it's such a beautiful conversation. But let's get into that conversation. So as hard now that I'm realizing, I feel like I might have forgiven the guy who shot me quicker than I've forgiven, people that I was friends with for years because of how they treated me after my injury, and it's weird how that kind of forgiveness word comes in waves and how your heart can be more harder on certain subjects or you can understand certain ways. But my biggest thing is there's two sides to every story. Put
Yes.
yourself in the other person's shoes. Sometimes it sucks to fucking do. It really does. But they do have reasons. and I've used this tool because of what happened to me. I've been able to mend a lot of different relationships or understand my parents a different way, understand my siblings a different way, understand, different things because I understand them differently of who they were at that moment and what they could give to me. So let's just start off with the person who shot me. This is somebody I've never met before, didn't have a conversation with. My anger with him came with his denial of the situation and my certainty of it, first of all. The accountability that I never got. Like Bentley said, sometimes we'll never hear those words and we still have to come to terms with it and we still have to forgive from our hearts for us, not for them, right? That was hard. When I was moving inside of my bed and I was dressing myself and I was in so much pain and this guy is fighting to get out, fighting me in court, firing his attorney, doing everything he can to make my life hell. And I am wanting to die, right? And I used to be like, does he understand what he did to me in my life? And it would make me extremely frustrated. But he lost a lot that night too, and I think about it in terms of if it was my family member, if it was one of my friends that this happened to, and would I still be fighting for them? Like the love doesn't go away. He still has family members, and I was mad at his family members showing up to court. I was mad about everything, of course, I'm just so angry little fireball. Like how could they support this? Like I don't understand. But it's like, no, that's not for me to know. That's their journey. That's what they were meant to do. And I feel like I didn't fight for him to get life. I didn't fight for him to get more time because I don't agree with that personally for me and my situation. It was hard for me that he wouldn't accept his responsibility at the time. And I feel like that's the only thing that that stopped us from having a real conversation about it because he just didn't want to, of course, admit to anything, which is understandable. I mean, if you're a criminal, who the fuck goes in the courtroom and says, I did it, it's not the first thing most criminals do, which, okay, I understand, him pleading insanity. I had to understand you're trying to get away from more time, it's all understandable. A part of me, I would be lying if I said I wasn't still a little frustrated. I think, if anything, I've come more terms in who I am today. So that's why I'm less angry maybe at the situation. I've forgiven the situation because I feel like it needed to happen. I don't know where I would be if it didn't happen. I feel like I found my purpose. I feel like I'm the strongest I've ever been mentally, and I love growing, and I love all these things, right? And my brother asked me one day, like, would you take it all back to walk again? And it stunned me a little bit. This is my younger brother, somebody who, loves me and had to watch me be in pain. And I told him, no, I can't go back now. How could I go back? Because for me walking, like, it's not worth it, And he couldn't understand it. He couldn't understand it until I took him into the community. I took him apart and saw him what I was a part of and who I am now. I had to introduce him to my new soul and who I am today. And now he understands it differently, right? And he sees the beauty in it, the beauty behind the pain, right? So I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but yeah, that's just my story with forgiveness. It's been a journey, right? I feel like it's one of those things that you're always going to have a journey with, and it's going to be constant growth, but that's the beauty of it. Okay, so let's go to Izeria. So I'm very curious about this. So you were friends with the person who shot you. So how did that go about? Have you forgiven them? Are you angry? Were you angry right as it happened?
So I was furious. I was devastated. I was upset. I was angry, sad. And like how you said, like you are, like how you guys said, like you weren't really more mad of like that you guys got shot, but you were mad at who did it. And like that's
Mm-hmm.
how I am too. Like I'm like I wasn't really mad that like I got shot. I was mad like and more upset than anything of who did it. And it took me a while to forgive him because he just like showed him and his family never like showed no remorse like at all. Like he just denied it and still to this day denies it. Like and he will never own up to it. But like like you said too, like what criminal is going to own up and say I did it. But
Mm-hmm.
and another thing too, like before court, we had one time when there was for one of our hearings, we saw like our family and my family ran into each other like in the parking lot, and he like tried to charge my dad, and he tried to fight like my dad. And so like it just like showed right then and there too, and his family too like tried to like stick up for him, was like he didn't do it. Like it was just kind of like a thing where it's just like wow, like this family has no remorse, and like this kid himself like can't even sit there and be like I did it, and even own up to that he hurt someone that he's known since like middle school. So it took a lot for me to understand, like it took a lot for me to like forgive and like sit there. I always asked why, like why, like why. And then I finally just like saw that if I like I'm not gonna heal, and I'm not gonna be better, and I'm not gonna come to an acceptance with everything if I don't forgive him. And so I tried and tried, and like I finally came to this day. Like now I forgive him, but I'll never forget what he did, and I'll never forget the pain I go through and the flashbacks and the stuff he put me through as a young 18-year-old. So, like, yeah, I forgive him, but I'll never forget what he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you touch on something so important, like we do want to know the why sometimes, and it's a hard thing to accept that we don't get to always know the why, right?
Yeah,
And like all that pain and all that, like, me being like, how could he sit there and know he's a liar and be okay with it? But guess what? That's
yeah,
not for me to know. I don't get to know the why of that. That's his journey. That's what he gets.
mm-hmm,
That's his talk with God. You know, like
mm-hmm,
that's his universe. That's his whatever he's dealing with. That's his journey. I have to go upon my journey, right? And it was
yeah,
very hard for me when I rolled out of that courtroom, but I had to realize and be strong in the one fact: nothing
yeah,
changes when I roll out of this. Whether he
yeah,
gets life, whether he gets 1 day, whether he gets 1 year, guess what? I'm paralyzed. I have to keep
yeah,
rolling. I have to keep living. This is
yeah,
in the past now, you know? And that is a hard thing to accept, but so empowering,
yeah.
so empowering.
Yes, that's one thing that it was hard for me to accept too, was that he like because he basically he's out in a program, a juvenile program. Like he's not locked up or anything. Like yeah, he's on probation, and he's in juvenile program, but he's still free. And when we have like another hearing, our sentencing hearing, like honestly, like before I cared, but like now at this point, like I don't care, because at the end of the day, like I still have unbearable pain every day. I'm not gonna, that's not gonna give me the opportunity to walk. And it's not gonna give me my ability to feel my legs again. So like at this point I just don't care where he goes in life and what he does, but at the end of the day he knows what he did, and I know he falls asleep every night knowing that he did that. And so it's just a a thing that took me a while to accept, but I'm glad I accepted it sooner than later.
Mhm. Yes, I love it. Okay, so how about you, Bentley? I mean, this is your ex-boyfriend, somebody that you had a lot of love for. What was your healing process in like coming to terms with this is the person who shot you and forgiving him?
It's still very fresh as well. And I also like would wanted to bring this up. I'm one of those people, like I have to go through this forgiveness process. Like I've had to go back and forth because I will forgive and then I get pissed off and get mad all over again and unforgive these motherfuckers and then have to go through it like all over again. I have just now truly forgiven him, like very recently. It's taken
Mhm.
a lot, and unlike both of you, he had no judicial repercussions. I went into his home without permission, so he claimed self defense, as if unloading a whole clip into a person is reasonable. But I digress. I found out he's actually living in the hometown that I live in currently. He's recently moved back here, and that was a really jolting experience for me to know not only that he's here, but I could potentially see him. And, you know, understandably so, I was devastated whenever I heard. And I I know Brianna knows I do human body suspension,
Mhm.
and the first time I went up, I learned about him living here 3 days before I did my human body suspension,
Wow.
and I don't know what you know about any of that, but it was healing. It was everything I had still holding on from that night, from that experience, from him. I let it all go. And I can't explain it other than as the cathartic experience it truly was. And I also have done a lot of healing and things for myself, and I had to acknowledge and say out loud that I also still loved this individual, and that was the hardest thing for me to ever acknowledge, because I do still love him regardless of what happened. I'm that type of person. My love does not die. It says everything about me as a person, but I also know what he did I don't have to engage with. It's just a part of my story now. I've forgiven him. I understand better. I know where he was. I do know he lives in regret. And I'm doing badass. It doesn't matter what happened anymore.
Yes.
Because
Yes,
I've
I love it.
continued to make my life spectacular. And honestly, I have never loved myself ever before till I was injured. And it was just last year I truly have learned to love myself. And that's the problem. And what happened with me is if you don't love yourself, love will absolutely destroy you. And that is what happened is I loved him more than I loved myself, which is why I got stuck in that toxic relationship. And why I ended up being
and that goes into something deep too of like, what was your forgiveness journey with yourself? Like, did you forgive yourself before, or do you still struggle with that? Like, did you forgive him
I
before
was
you
the
forgave
very last
yourself?
person to forgive. I've forgiven him before. I forgave him before I forgave myself, and that's still very fresh as well. And I was gonna comment on. I'm very proud of both of you. Y'all are way ahead of the curve because like I said, it's just been within the last 2 years of my injury. I was already the better part of a decade into my injury before I truly started healing and focusing on the forgiveness and focusing on letting these things go that we have no control over. And as a control freak, that was fucking hard for me. It's just a terrible thing to have to accept. And I want you both to know, like, from an outsider's perspective, I admire both of you for taking the initiative to grow and heal immediately. Like, we have no time, as we clearly
Yes.
know. Today is the
Oh,
day.
I appreciate it. And I feel like it's because of badasses like you that we're able to strive so much in our community. It is showing people that they can live their life, that they can um, be beautiful and bold and badass inside of a chair. And I love that so much. Social media has given us a different perspective on disability. And I think that it really helps the newly injured girls that are coming in to really see it up front and see post after post of like you living your life. So I want to give credit to you too. Like 10 years is a long time and you've been fucking killing it. And all that pain that you went through, it's so that you can be here talking with us with such wisdom and help us through our journey because we are still going through it. So your words matter so much, and are going to stick with us. So,
I feel the
yes.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I feel like the disabled community is way better than any. I feel like I've never been so comfortable and like so okay with like friends like and a group so much. Like there's no judging. There's like always cool vibes. Like no one ever judging. And I feel like the disabled community is always the best.
I always say that I'm like, women empowerment is cool and everything, but disabled women empowerment is like really cool,
Yeah, it's like
I feel like
top notch.
even disabled people, like you can go into a room, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna run into somebody like really fucking awesome, that are funny, humor, great, like I love that. It's not the same. Like if you go into a grocery store, you don't have the same odds, and I feel like I feel very handpicked. I feel like our community is very handpicked. I feel like we're very strong. And I feel like we're fucking amazing, regardless of what we go through or not. Like, life sucks. There's going to be obstacles. It's like pick your pain, pick your struggle, pick, what road you want to go down. Unfortunately, it's like that. But the beauty part of it is like there's also blessing, there's also growth, there's also healing, but you have to want it and you have to work towards that, right? Let's go through the comments a little bit because I know we're getting a lot of them. Okay, so Peter said, let me see. For 10 years, I was on active duty in the Army on combat deployments. The worst thing we encountered were armed civilians untrained in the use of firearms. Okay, that's just talking about the knowledge of firearms. Yeah, I agree. Hello, Robert. Thank you so much for joining in with us. Aaliyah says, as Izeria's sister, I have the hardest time forgiving everybody that left her. Yeah, family definitely has a hard time.
I have easier time forgiving people for myself. If it's somebody that I love that has been done dirty, you will not get my forgiveness. That's
that's literally how it is for me. It's like
sister,
sometimes
you do not have to forgive the perpetrators. Like, that's
literally
her job, not yours.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I have to be careful what I tell my family because it's like I'm picking if I want them to like them or not like them anymore.
My mom already
I
doesn't
totally
like
agree.
you, like, type thing.
I totally agree. That's so funny. But yeah, I feel like, you're allowed to have that anger too, and it was a very traumatic thing that you went through watching your sister go through that pain. It's hard and it's not easy, and you don't get to experience all the things that she does too. So her forgiving journey might be different than yours, but it might also be really healing to let that go too, and work on it. I suggest everybody goes to therapy. It's just one of those things that I feel like helps out. Talking, just letting the stuff inside your brain get a little bit unscrambled, and sometimes when you're talking, you figure stuff out for yourself too. It's not just what the therapist is giving you. Sometimes people feel like it's just, oh, I don't want to be fed or brainwashed or any of that, but I just realized with all ages, from young kids to older age people, it helps to talk. It helps to have somebody reason with you with your mind, because our mind, our thoughts are not fast, unfortunately. Okay. Tanya, forgiving. I agree with you, Brianna. I have told Izeria as her mom that she needs to forgive in order to start her healing process. Yeah. Forgiveness is an important part of the healing process, right? But there's also that little thing that gets in our way of like denial, all these other grief that we have to go through and we have to let go before. I remember my mom used to tell me in the beginning when I was crying my eyes out and hating life, right? She was like, Brianna, you just need to accept it. You just need it. And I'd be like, okay, here, ding, let me just accept
That's the last thing you
button.
want to hear when you're in that position, though. You're like, no, we're not having this conversation.
Literally, I wish there was a
It's
switch
such
where
a
you could
moment
just
for
switch
me.
it on.
Yes, and I'm just like, it's not that easy, girl. Like I had to go through some stuff, but the thing is like you're thrown into it and you don't really know what you have to do to heal. You're like, what do I need to do first? I'm feeling all these things. I don't really know how to get out of it, and like one thing that really helped me was writing a goodbye letter to my old self and like telling my old self that I love you and realizing this is an important thing. I had to realize that I was grieving a part of me that died, and the people who loved me around me didn't understand that. So I was being told, like, just have hope. You're still the same person. Everything's going to be fine, yada, yada. You might walk again, whatever the case may be. And in reality, I had to come to terms with who I am now. Regardless of if I got up and walked out of that hospital, I'm a new person. I'm somebody different, right? And that was very hard for me to accept. You don't get that funeral, that awake, that moment where everybody sits around and talks about the old you, that grieving process that you go through when somebody dies, right? That's very painful when you lose somebody, right? And Bentley, I'm sure you can attest to this too. It's very painful. And losing yourself is very painful. Losing the person
And I've
that
done
you
that multiple times, like, and that's the hard part too, is like I got way worse before I got better. I got better, and then I hit rock bottom, and when I hit my rock bottom, because I didn't deal with my traumas before my injury. I didn't heal with my injury traumas, and then I had more and more and more loss. I have had 5 horrifically traumatic deaths since my injury. 4 were overdoses and 1 was a murder, and these were all people that were very, very close to me. Like, these were very, very close to me, and substance abuse is a very big thing here, and it's easy to get stuck into all of that. And so having to get out of that foggy, clouded misconception that is life it's going from the injury stuff, and then, okay, I'm getting acclimated back to the real world. And then it's like, oh, you can still hit rock bottom even in paralysis. Okay. Like, it can get worse. Like,
Yeah.
as crazy as it sounds. And that's, I don't want you or anybody else in our community that is, I don't want people to have to go through that. And that's why I think that this conversation is so important. And I wish I would have really dove into it the way you have in the beginning of your injury. Things are a lot easier once you do make these moves to be better. And it's, everybody has this mindset that, oh, like, we got to get our bodies better. Like, our bodies are just fine. Our bodies healed themselves. I would much rather have to deal with a broken body than a broken brain. And that was the hard part, dealing with the mental aspects that, like, it was easy to heal. Like, honestly, yeah, we have pains and things like that, but it's an ongoing thing with your mind, and you have to be treated preciously.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yes, that's
totally
really
agree
good.
with you on that, Brianna, when you said like our old self like died when like we transitioned to this different person, because I would always like tell my loved ones like the old me's like gone, like she died, like she's not here, like person. And I just feel like that's one thing that like a lot of people couldn't understand me with, because I was always getting told like, no, you're still the same person, you're still you. But I just feel like they just couldn't understand, like you like generally have to be in like someone's position and shoes to like really understand. And like this is kind of one of them where you really have to be in that position to understand like what we all go through and like think in our heads. And so that was one thing too that I would like tell a lot of people is like the old me died, like. And I just like wish people could see, I don't know if it's like with you guys, but like with me, like instantly that night when I got shot, like I felt completely different. Like even when I woke up and I like was able to like actually focus and like comprehend things, like I could just feel I was different. And when I would look at old memories of me, like I just could tell like I felt a different energy and vibe. So like I was just like, I would always say that a lot of the time. It's like the old me died. Like I'm a new person. This is a new me, and it's someone I have to accept and get along with too. Like
It's
so.
so hard for them to understand because staring at you, right? Their concept of grieving is so different. And I feel like that's why it fucks with a lot of newly injured people's head, because they don't get that grieving process. And it's necessary. It's necessary. The forgiving process, all that is so important for your confidence, and you need to do it. And I feel like, it was so healing for me to just be like, I loved you. Thank you for everything you did for me, for my past self, right? You were great. Like, I hope you're proud of this new version of me. I hope you're proud that I kept on fighting for us. I know you were sad. I know you were broken. I love you, and give that version of me a hug, because when I was first injured, I used to cry over the pictures of me walking, of me standing. And recently I had to do a video where I had to include all the pictures of me when I was walking and all this other stuff. And looking at those old pictures made me sad for that version of myself. It literally did. I just felt all the brokenness that I was feeling during that time and who I am now, right? And it was such a healing moment for me, because I'm like, this version of myself that I've been fantasizing about wasn't what I thought it was. And I appreciate who I am now. It made me want to hug myself too, and you have to give yourself a pat on the back sometimes too, and be like, girl, you've been through a lot. Life has not been easy, and you kept
Literally.
on pushing. That takes strength. Like, you are a warrior. You are amazing. You deserve your dreams to come true. Like, you are a precious diamond on this earth. I can't even speak. That's how passionate I feel about this. Stop. Look at me, you guys. I can't even stop about this topic. I feel so passionate, and it means a lot to me. So let's finish going through comments before we go. Okay, going still back on the forgiveness, Tanya said, doesn't mean she has to be friends with him again or talk to him, but forgive herself. So important. Yes, we talked a lot about that. Hello, Juan. Thank you for joining us. Robert, forgiveness is something you do for yourself and not for others. 100%. And I feel like there's a lot of videos on that. Dig deeper. There's books. Don't be ashamed to acknowledge that you don't know about these topics and that you need to know more, because these quotes, these way that people have dig deeper about these topics and, you know, giving you tools to help you through it and analogies that you really understand. I feel like personally it has helped me. I love self-help books. I love all that kind of stuff. You know, I feel like it just helps me understand things differently. So make sure you check them out if you need help on any of these topics. Is it okay to claim victim in your situation? I was told that I'm not a victim for being shot. People in our community have talked a lot about this. I've heard different people talk about being a victim and being a survivor. Technically, I feel like we are victims. I mean, let's just be straight. I feel like the survivor part of it is taking back that term and being like, no, I survived that situation, you know, and I came out from it, and it's just turning kind of a negative into a positive more term. People view those words a little bit more differently. But let's see how you guys feel about it. Bentley, how do you feel about being called a victim?
I don't like it.
What do you prefer? Like, have you always felt that way, or what do you feel when you hear that word?
No one calls me that, honestly. Like,
Honestly, yeah, no one's ever called me a victim. Everyone's always called me a survivor, gun violence survivor.
exactly.
Oh,
No one's
yeah.
ever called
I've
me a
never
victim.
been
Yeah,
even
honestly,
being
now
a
that you
victim.
say
All
that.
of us really are. There is a correlation between surviving and being a victim, but I think
Yeah.
it's how you feel, because I don't think either one, like victim mentality, you know, is a really debilitating thing, and I don't feel like, and that's a derogatory thing. Like, if you felt like you were a victim, then you would still be living in that low vibrational way. Like, you would not
Yeah.
be growing and healing if you felt that way, in my opinion. I
Mhm.
think that knowing you're a survivor is also a very empowering feeling. Like, words really do matter, and I would much rather be referred to as a survivor than a victim any day.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
definitely feel like it's a growth thing to identify as it, you know, but I don't know what really they've been through in the comments, or if somebody, you feel like you're a victim specifically and somebody's telling you that you're not, you know, I don't know your situation, but don't let anybody tell you what you are if you're feeling that way, and know that it is a growth thing, right? To identify, why do you feel like you identify with that word, right? You have to dig a little deeper on that and come to terms with it a little bit, and maybe put yourself in their shoes too and see why they're saying that and why they feel that way about you or your situation. You know, all this is about growth. Sometimes we don't want to have these hard conversations. Also, shot in the back, you have to forgive to go forward. Yes. PTSD is like that. It comes in waves, little things set you off, and waves get larger as they go. 100%. You have to be a survivor, not a victim. Okay, Juan, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about, right? So, Chicken Boy says, right, but does it cancel out the victimization itself just because we're strong to move on? I personally don't think so, but it just, I feel like it's a growth thing, honestly, understanding those terms. But everybody views it different. It's kind of what triggers you, right? Sometimes I hear a quote and it might mean something different to my heart than it does to somebody else's heart. So that's another thing. If it's a trigger word for you, you know, or if it's not, then that's just kind of up to your journey.
It more irritates me than anything. Like, that's just me personally. I'm like, don't
Mm-hmm.
like just
Yeah, that's what I
I
mean. I feel
think
like it's a
because I
growth
have
thing
been a
more than.
victim. Like, you know, if you've been there and you've overcome it, I think that that's why it bothers me, is because I do know that, like, I was a victim at a point, but I'm not one any longer. I think
Mm-hmm. Yes,
helping
I
with.
agree. I was gonna say that. I felt like a victim more, I feel like in the beginning, than anything than now. Then now I feel like
Yeah.
a
I've
survivor, right? But
graduated.
Yeah.
Now I'm just traumatized. Like,
yeah. So nobody can fathom the stuff that we go through on a daily basis, day by day out. Yeah, it's definitely hard, right? If I must return to the courts, wouldn't it cancel out the guilt of the accused to say I'm not a victim? I think it should be upheld to say I'm a victim that survived. This is interesting topic, honestly, that you're talking about right now, because it is true. Inside of the court, for anybody that has to go through the courts, I'm just sending my love out to you because it is so draining. It was one of the hardest things that I had to go through, mainly because of the way that the courts wouldn't let me say certain things, or the way that they made me phrase certain things. That frustrated me. Like, why can't I just get on the stand and tell my truth and tell my story? Like, don't shut me up, you know, don't tell me to be quiet.
Filtering
Yes,
me.
no. I hated that. It triggered me so much, and it really did send me down a bad depression when I had to go through that court room. And um, like you said, like the guy was not forgiving, you know, in the same situation. So he was like mad dogging my boyfriend and the coworker. And I'm just like, here my boyfriend is trying so hard, struggling, taking care of me at that point, transferring. And you're going to get angry that he's here, you know, protecting me. Like, calm down. It triggered me so much. So I was still very, a little fireball, right? Very angry at the situation. And I had to talk myself out of that. That's when I had to start going to support groups. I had to go heavily into therapy. I had to realize that he doesn't define who I am as a person. And this is just a chapter in my story, and it gets better. You know, not when we're watching seasons of a show, not every show is peaches and cream, right? That was a season finale, but we went on to the next chapter. You know, it doesn't matter anymore. I accept my situation, but not my condition. It gives me hope to tell myself that I did not deserve this. No, of course you didn't deserve it. You know, we don't deserve the pain that we're given, but we work through it. We get past it, and that's the beauty of it, right? Um, is, is that you keep on going despite that. And also going back to that again, I feel like honestly, I felt like I deserved so much when I was able-bodied. Everything was like, why me? Why me? Why can't I just have a perfect family, you know, with a big house and a nice car? Why can't everything go perfect for me? And it's like, nobody told you life was going to be perfect. That's something, unfortunately, we made up in our head. That was a hard reality for me to accept, and it might hit you guys in your guys' heart a little bit. But the reality is that nobody came down and said, Brianna, you're going to walk forever. You're going to have a perfect life with a great big house and all this money to spend. Nobody told me that. That's just something that I just felt like I deserved, you know, as a person. And it's like, nobody tells you when you get your blessings or what you get in this lifetime. You have to keep on going, you know, and you have to work on you and find happiness in where you're at right now and what you can do to make yourself little goals to make you happy today. You know, of course, have those big goals, but also focus on the little ones. Very important. Love you guys. Thank you, Brittany.
Brittany, I got to meet her when I went to Baltimore finally in person, and she is my role sister, my role mate. Like,
I love her so much.
Loving it.
Yeah, she is so great. I love her. Juan, I use the exact terminology. That old person is gone. Buried him a long time ago. Reminds me of the wounded warrior. Salute to all the veterans. Using our disability as strength is hard but obtainable. It takes time and hard work, but I know mine gave me a voice I never knew I had.
Yes, that.
Yes, that is so
That part.
important. And it's
That
very
was
powerful, right? I
yes.
totally agree. Those were great comments. I really appreciate you guys joining. And this was in the comment section. You guys have great, great commentary, and you guys came with your guys' heart and shared your guys' stories as well. And that's what this is all about, getting different perspectives. So we're a little bit over time, but I just want to touch on, what's your advice for a newly disabled woman who feels like their life is not worth living if they're disabled? So it's something that we expressed, that we felt. I just want you guys to imagine that newly injured girl that just got paralyzed, maybe even shot, and it came across our video and is feeling like, you know, life might not be worth it. That these beginning feelings that she's feeling, this loneliness, this, you know, anger, this frustration is going to last forever. I just want you to speak to that girl. So, Bentley, what would you say?
I have like two pieces of advice. One's kind of funny, but very valid. Don't ever trust a fart, which we all will understand. Like with spinal cord injuries, bowel bladder issues, do not trust a fart. You may not be happy with the result. But that's true, but like,
It's true.
Sorry.
Okay, facts.
But I cannot stress allowing yourself to feel your feels. That's the biggest piece of advice that I can give as an old G. I didn't understand that how important it was to allow safe space for all of my feelings, not just the pleasant ones. All of those things are very much a part of us, and it's okay to grieve, and you have to. Like, the grieving process is not timed, and whatever it takes you, like however long, whatever you have to grieve and process, like, do it in your time. It's not anybody else's time to delegate. This is your injury, and it's all personal.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Bentley. What would you say, love?
So I would tell him, like, it's okay to not feel okay. Let yourself feel the feelings, even if you're mad, happy, angry. Let yourself feel the emotions and don't bottle things up because it's only gonna make things worse. And if she's someone who she is someone that got shot, I would tell him also, like, be blessed that God is allowing you to live a second chance in life, because not everybody is allowed to do that. And He's giving you a second chance in life because you have a voice and you have a reason to be here. So find that reason and do it.
Yes, I love that. Find that reason. Find your why. Why are you on this earth? What do you want to give back? Sometimes it's easy to focus on other people, but I would say, like, you have a second chance to create whoever you want to be. You get to be stronger. You get to be better. You get to be whatever you want, right? That old person, like we said, is gone. You're grieving. So that sometimes when we're growing up, I realize personally that other people was based off of, like, my parents' views, what happened to me as a child, right? Everything was because of my trauma growing up. I didn't grow up great. And so I went through a lot of things, always in different schools, grew up with addicts. It wasn't easy. And I had to heal that part of me, and I had to become stronger. I had to write, who would I want in a best friend, right? Who do I want in a lover? And become that person, become wiser, become greater, smile, I feel like it's such a blessing for me to share my story and to empower people to want to keep on going or to think about life a little bit differently. Not everybody has that. And one thing that I hated when I first got injured was everybody staring at me. But now something that I love is that I have a voice. Anything that I say is amplified. Life gave me a microphone, and I get to decide how I want to use it, right? And so don't let the little negative bug that comes inside of your head, in everybody's head, don't feel like it's personal. We all have that negative little bug that crawls up there and tells us we don't deserve to be living. We're nothing. Why did we get saved? We're failures. All the ugly things that we feel. And we have to fight back with that other positive little bug and be like, girl, feel your feelings, but it's gonna be okay. This is a hard day, but the sun is gonna shine again. Without the storms, we wouldn't appreciate the sunshine. We have to go through the bad times to appreciate the good times. We have to accept it. It's something that needs to happen for our growth, for our lessons. We need to realize, what is this right now trying to teach me? What can I learn today? How can I grow? How can I be a better me tomorrow? Right? So it's digging a little deeper. It is hard, but you don't only figure out how to be a woman with a disability. You figure out how to be a woman in this world, how to find your own self, your own confidence, owning your space. You figure that out in this journey, and I feel like that's why so many of us that I've met inside of this community say we wouldn't go back. So many of us love who we are today. That is facts, 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 facts. So hang on for better days, right? This was a great conversation. Do you guys have any other things that you guys want to add before we close off?
No, all I gotta say is you have to let it rain before it grows. You have to let it rain in order for you to grow.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. And don't pick those flowers just because they're beautiful. Let them keep on growing. Give yourself room to grow, right? I love that. So important. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Let me make sure I don't have any other comments. Oh, we do have more comments. Let's see. Never know where that fart might lead. So true. Until next time, Brianna, you're still with your boyfriend since your incident. I am still with my boyfriend. We did have a couple rough patches where I've talked about in previous episodes. So if you guys want to go check that out, feel free. I dig deeper into the bumps that we had to get over. Of course, it's not easy. We were only together a year before my injury, which is in relationship nothing, right? And we were very young, and it was very hard. So we had to go through some shit. But I'm proud to say, and it makes me very happy that we are at our strongest we've ever been. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know. And we had to go through those hard moments to get where we are at now. So it's definitely been a journey. But yeah, go check that out in another video. Thank you. I love this podcast. Thank you, Leah. Thank you so much for joining everybody in the chat. Appreciate you. Make sure to tune in every single week. We have new videos coming your way. Every first and third Thursday, I'm usually on. I know today's a Wednesday. Forgive me. I was a little sick last week, you know. But Tom is going to be on with his gaming later on tonight, and the boys are on every single Tuesday. And Bobby and Robert are on every other Thursday that I'm not on. Damn, we're getting a lot of shows. I'm funny how Bobby finds the horn for his show, huh? Funny how that. Okay, thank you guys. Until next time, live to roll, everyone. Bye.